Hi guys, JP from FSiPanel. Welcome to this video. It's a quick tutorial about VNAV. I got some nice discussion on Discord channel and as well by email of some pilots saying that the 737 VNAV is unreliable and that you cannot count on it, and Airbus is much better and a lot of different things. So I agree, the PMDG 737, and I should not say the PMDG, I should say the 737 FMC VNAV is not that easy to handle, but once you understand how it works, then it's quite straightforward, and believe me, it works pretty well. So what we will do today as a demonstration is we will fly RNP-08 approach in Jersey, and we will position ourselves in the position called Big No that you can see now on your map, 5 miles north of Big No, and we will be cruising at 15,000 feet right there, and then we will program the VNAV via Big No to Guernsey and finally to connect for the approach. So we will connect it to the initial approach fix, which is Lapley, and then we will see how the aircraft manage everything. So for now, what I will do, I will just take FSiPanel. I have created a pilot waypoint, so I will grab FSiPanel and let it do the positioning for us. Alright, so in FSiPanel I have created a pilot waypoint, so I will use it. The pilot waypoint is here. It's 5 miles north of position Big No at 15,000 feet, and I will just click on Move Aircraft, and we are back in the cockpit, and we will let FSiPanel do the job. That will take us around 40 seconds. I will fast forward the video and I see you whenever we are ready. Alright, so FSiPanel tells me now that the aircraft is ready. You cannot see the message as I put it on another screen just to make sure you have a better view here. So aircraft is ready. The first thing I will do is turn off the anti-ice as it's not required anymore. And we will start programming our arrivals. So to do that, FSiPanel has already set the destination. That's perfect. So what we will do is just change the runway, not the approach. So we are going to do an AirNav 08 via the Big Knot 1 kilo arrival, and we transition by Lapley. So this is what we want to do, and direct to Big No. As you can see, it's in front of us, 5 miles, then Guernsey, and finally we will just connect to Lapley. So now if I look in the plan mode to show you what we are doing, you can see that we are just north of position Big No. Then we fly over at Guernsey, and finally we go to the initial approach fix of the AirNav 08, which is Lapley. We have some altitude and speed restriction from the chart, 210 knots, 2,000 feet or above, 2,000 feet or above at Gipta. Juliet 08 Fox, which is our final approach fix, is at 2,000 feet, and then we have the 3 degrees descent down to the runway. So we will not change anything there. We will leave it like it is, and you will see that VNAV manage very well. Now we need to give our FMC some references. Now if I go to cruise page, you can see that there is no cruising altitude. There is no top of descent here. If I even increase the range, we don't see any top of descent. So anytime you descend, you do some step descent, and you want to make sure that you can do a very nice VNAV descent, synchronize your altitude. Right now I'm gonna put 15,000 feet as cruising altitude, and you can see that with the actual cost index she computed 299 knots. If I'm not happy with that, I can say okay, round it up to 300 knots. That's fine for me. Execute. So right now by doing this we have a top of descent. Very nice. Next thing we want to check is descent. So if you go to descent page, there you can see the following. You can see that once we get to the top of descent, she will slow down to 273 knots before going idle and descending on the profile. So if we want to have the same speed for descent, then we can change that speed as well. So now as we fly 300 knots, I will just increase my speed manually to 300 knots. We are still in position freeze by FSiPanel. By the way, I will put that snapshot in the description below, the link. So if you want to fly the same approach, all set up, you just need to pick up that snapshot, position the aircraft 737-800 in Jersey on runway 08, drag and drop the snapshot file over FSiPanel, and you can fly it. All right, so 300 knots. So what we will do here, we will change the target speed. So we want 592 or 591. You see the Mach number right there is the same. So we're happy about the Mach number. What we don't like is this 273. Well, it's not that we don't like, it's that we would like to maybe descend a little bit faster, or ATC restrictions, anything you want. You choose your speed, you name it. So in my case, I will just put 300 knots. Execute. Right now, the VNAV is ready. We will just set up the approach. So in the approach, what is important when we are flying a RNP approach, if you go to position page, you go to page number 3, you have nav status. Nav status, you can see where the FMC is getting its position from the GPS to, and the IRS are basically getting that information from the GPS. This is the VOR that she tuned right now to help for the computation. So now if I go to next page, you can see that I can inhibit some VOR, and I can even turn off the update from DME and from VOR. This is very important because we are flying GPS approaches, RNP approaches, and the FMC, from time to time might take some DME information, VOR information to update its position. And if one of these VOR is not giving perfect information, we might very well be out of tolerance during our approach. So what we do is we deselect DME update, VOR update. That's something we do. As well, if you go to progs page 4, what you want to do here is make sure the RNP here meets your chart criteria. 0.3, that's fine. And for the vertical RNP, we just put 125 to have a better alert. Sorry, that goes over there. Vertical RNP 125. So that will trigger our NPS. I will show you that once we get closer to the approach. All right, so now we are ready. I will just set the minimum for the approach. So let's grab the approach chart quickly and have a look at the minimum. So the idea here is not to fly perfectly well and go around and everything, and not to brief it completely. I don't want to lose your time. I just want to show you what VNAV can do. So what we will just set is the minimum here, which is 571. So let's put 571 as the minimum here on the aircraft. And then we can fly the approach. And you will see how perfect how she flies this descent. I'm sure if you're not comfortable with VNAV, and believe me, even in the real world, some pilots, the old ones especially, they don't like it at all. They will go vertical speed, they will go flight level change, they will adjust the vertical speed. And the new guys, the ones that are trained with the new philosophy, they will use VNAV, but they need to have a proper training from the beginning. All right, so we are ready to take the control. So I will take the control by holding the brake. Now I have control, and I will go LNAV and VNAV. As you can see, very important to see, we have VNAV path. Now we should get a reminder from our nice FMC that we need to select a lower altitude. You can see that right now. If I don't do it, this VNAV path will become VNAV alt, and then the aircraft will not descend, and then we'll have to mitigate to catch up the descent path. All right, so now for the exercise, we will put 2,000 feet, which is the final approach fix altitude. And we want to see how VNAV can handle the descent all the way down to the final approach fix. And I will show you what you can see and what to expect. So now the first thing you want to see here is top of descent. When we reach top of descent, which is on the progress page 1.3 miles from now, we're expecting to see here retard, because she wants to close the thrust, and we will start descent. So let's see if that's happening. Retard, see the thrust, and now the aircraft starts to descend. Don't worry too much about here the out of scale, because this is for the approach. We set 125. This is 400 up, 400 down, and this is 125. If you stay within that small limit, this is what you want to see during your approach. So right now, if we look at the indication, you can see that we are 50 feet actually too low. This is like a glide slope. This is 400 feet high, 400 feet low, and my 125 is that magenta line here. Something that is interesting as well, if you go to descent forecast, you can see that now she's descending without any forecast in the wind. So if you have a flight plan, don't forget to put your wind. For example, now we will put level 100, and I will change the wind at, let's say, 178, 25 knots. Now look what's going to happen when I execute. When I execute, you can see that she changed a little bit the profile, and she will correct right away. Perfect. So now that this is done, we continue our descent. I will just deselect the ILS, as we are not going for an ILS, but we are going for a VNAV, so that we are not getting false information. Perfect. Now we've got 2 green dots right there. So this is 2 indications that you have to keep in mind. This is when the aircraft will start to reduce the speed toward that restrictions that we have in descent, 240 knots below 10,000 feet. So by that green point, she will start to pitch up a little bit. She will not add any thrust. We're already on idle, so she will pitch up a little bit to reduce the speed from 300 knots to 240 knots. And she expects to be at 240 knots right there on the second green point, where she will resume an idle descent, maintaining around 240 knots. So let's see that happening. Now we are reaching 10,000 feet slowly, and you can see the first green dot here. You see my rate of descent is reducing. She's pitching up, and the speed is dropping. So the speed target will now be 240 knots. I'll just put some light as we are reaching 10,000 feet. And now you can see the goal of the VNAV is to reduce the aircraft speed to 240 knots by that second green point that we have right there. And she seems to be very nice, very good on track. Don't worry if your speed is a bit low or a bit high, as long as you're on idle and you can manage and you see that you are within your tolerance. There is no need to stress. You will see that she will do a perfect job for us. So now we are descending. You can see 500 feet per minute because she wants the speed to drop below 240 knots. If she cannot manage, you will get a message here saying that drag is required. And then she's basically asking you for help. She needs maybe a bit of speed brake. Right now, nothing. She's happy. You can see that we will not breach the altitude and speed restrictions, 10,000 feet, 240 knots. So we are almost at 240 knots. We are approaching 10,000 feet, and we are approaching our second green dot point right there. So everything looks perfect as per the book. So she's doing a perfect job for the time being. Let's see if we can continue that approach, and we will see the next indication. So now you will see the speed will stop at 240 knots. You will see that here, 243, 242, and at 240 knots, she will basically keep the speed at 240 knots, and the rate of descent will resume as needed. And now we are a bit slow, but it's not a problem. If the speed drop another 5 knots, she will revert to speed mode and she will increase the speed to 240 knots. Right now we are doing a very economical descent, idle thrust. Since the top of descent we went to idle and we didn't add any thrust, so it's a perfect descent. So you cannot be better than that. Next thing you see on your screen now, you see that first decel point. So what is the decel point here? Well, if you look in the next page, we have a speed restrictions right there. Laply, we should be at 210 knots. So here she's telling us that by that point here, I will again level off a little bit, reduce my rate of descent, because I want to be 210 knots at Laply. So that's the next thing she will do for us. So we don't have to worry about, everything seems to be working. So approaching that decel point, what we should see is a speed restriction toward 210 knots. So let's see if that's happening. over at Guernsey. Everything looks good. I will start very soon to do a live stream. I'm getting ready. Tomorrow I get another card that I needed because I have unreliable network issues on my motherboard. But as of tomorrow, I'll be ready. And then if you want me to show you some stuff on the Airbus, on the 737 real world procedure, just let me know in the section below, and I will try to plan some lives for you on these items. All right, we are going down. And we will pass Guernsey. Then on the way to Lapli, you see constant descent. We don't have any thrust, and we don't need to worry about anything. A good indication, however, is to take your track miles, 30 track miles, multiply this by 3, 9,000 feet. So if you are at 9,000 feet or below, you're fine. That's a 3 degrees descent. So basically, if you multiply your track mile by 3, it gives you a good indication whether we are too high or too low. But again, if you trust your VNAV, believe me, you can do anything you want with that 737. So we will keep VNAV all the way until final approach fix. I will just put some information that are very important for the configuration. That's a good hint I will show you. Take the final approach fix where you have the final descent to the runway, use it as a fix, and just put 2 miles radial. I will explain to you why this is for the configuration of the aircraft. It's very useful, very easy. So I will show you that once we come close to the position. All right, we are on the way to Lapli. Let's synchronize the heading. I'm sorry if I'm not showing you too much outside here. The idea is really to show you the VNAV feature, how it works, and not to show you this kind of beautiful view that you will see most of the time in the simulator. Now we are just concentrating on how the 737 works on VNAV. That was a video requested by some of you. So if that's not your cup of tea, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to show you VNAV by the best of my knowledge. All right, so you see the decel point. Anytime if you have a doubt, you go to descent. And there you can see if you are on profile, too high or too low. And now as we are reaching that decel point, what we are expecting again is the aircraft to slow down toward 210 knots, which is our restriction speed at Lapli. So let's see that happening. We are slowly approaching decel point. She computed. So at that stage, if you're not using VNAV, if you are the old guys that I was referring before, you will start using speed brake, put some flaps, vertical speed, because you want to reduce to 210 knots. Look, our VNAV will do that for us. We are still on idle since the beginning. We didn't have a single % of thrust. Now we are reaching decel point. Look at the speed. We are maintaining level. You can see that she reduced the rate of descent. The speed is dropping to 210 knots, which is good for us because it's just above up speed. And you can see now on the screen another interesting point, decel right there. So now you will tell me, what is that decel now? Well, this is for the approach now. So we will maintain 210 knots until that decel point, and there she will go for final approach speed. So basically from that position, we need to go with the flaps, the gear, and position the aircraft for landing. So she's telling us at that position latest, this is where you should start configuring your 737. All right, so we are good. Let's see what's happening. We are reaching Lapli. The speed should be 210 knots. So look at that. Can it be better? And 2,000 or above. So don't be at 2,000 feet if you don't need to be at 2,000 feet. You see, we are still in idle thrust from the beginning. Now we are turning toward Gipta. The speed is 210 and we have a decel. So once we reach the decel, you will see the speed will drop to up speed and this is where we should give some flaps. So I will play exactly by the rules. So we are going to wait until the decel point. Right there, you see the speed is dropping toward up, and now we can go flaps 1. We wait for flaps 1 green light. Perfect. Flaps 1. Green light. We can go flaps 5. Heading 083 inbound. Now I was referring to that 2 miles DME here that you can see from there. This is where we go gear down, flaps 15, arm speed brake, and set missed approach set lower altitude. So set 600 feet. So you can wait until this 2 DME now. All right, so we are turning inbound. Everything looks good. We are perfectly established. You can see vertical deviation within 125 feet. We can see it as well right there. So everything looks good. Now, no stress. We are waiting for this 2 miles circle. If you want to be more conservative, go ahead. And did you see that we didn't have any thrust since we started our descent from flight level 150? So that's very nice economical descent. Reaching my 2 miles distance from Juliet 08 Fox, gear down, flaps 15, arm speed brake, and we are going to set minimum 600 feet. That's all you have to do. Now we're going to check 2,000 feet at final approach fix, where we will start our descent. And then, of course, we will check every DME, the altitude. So we'll do that as well, and we will see how nicely she's doing that. Remember that you should be fully established by the final approach fix. So we will go now with flaps 30. The speed will reduce to approach speed, and I can go for the landing checklist. So engine start switches, they are continuous. Speed brake, arm, landing gear is down, and flaps 30 green lights, landing checklist completed. Perfect. Now we are going down. Remember that if you check DME distance, take that DME from there. Do not take it from any VOR. This is on AirNav approach, RNP approach. The distance is from the runway. So that's 4 DME check. We check it from there. 4 DME, 1595. We are perfectly well established. So we are on profile. We continue down. Once you are less than 300 feet below missed approach altitude, in our case 3,000 feet, you can set your missed approach altitude. So we are going to set 3,000 feet. And when you do that, always try to make sure you check that you're still in VNAV path. Okay. Now we will check 2 miles or even 3 miles. 3 miles, we should be 1280. So you can see that from there. 3 miles, 1280. And at 2 miles, we should be 960. Runway is in front of us. 2 miles, 960. So let's wait for the 2 miles from there, and we should be exactly at 960 feet. Look at that. Perfectly well. And anytime you feel comfortable from there, you can take over the control. I take autopilot off. Auto throttle is off. I will have to disconnect the autopilot like this because I didn't again set my joystick. I'm sorry, guys. And we are flying manually. All right, let's go on the PAPI. And on an RNP approach, you can keep your flight director all the way down to the threshold. If you are flying a VOR or NDB, then you should recycle the flight director. Okay, we are going down. Everything looks good. Here, the PAPI is a little bit strange sometimes in Jersey. So let's go down and see what we can do. All right, speed brake up, Reverses normal. And we will vacate at the end. We don't want to use too much brake. For the quick turnaround as well, it's important if you can use maximum reverses, minimum brake, then you can depart faster. All right, below 60 knots, speed under control. I can vacate the runway to the right here, and I will let FSiPanel do the after landing flow for me. Here we go. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that quick video. That was how to use VNAV. If you still have some questions or any approach you would like to see, please let me know. If I have some time for this, I will try to make a live stream or to make a demonstration if you have some problem with an approach. Thank you for watching, and if you didn't subscribe to the channel yet, please do it. That will help me doing more and more video for you. As always, stay safe and see you very soon for another video. Bye bye, guys.